A talk show that cuts to the truth, no matter how painful it might be, and no BS. Citizen Smith, Citizen Smith, Citizen Smith.
Here's a man who would not take it anymore. A man who stood up against the scum, the dogs, the filth. Here is someone who stood up.
It's time for Citizen Smith.
Good morning. How are you today? Tuesday, August 17th here at TalkCast PDX in Portland, Oregon. A little overcast today. I like it. It's nice not to have the sun beaming down on me for the first time, it seems, in 2 months. And heat, sweltering heat, not around. I feel good. I can't wait for it to rain every single day for like 2 months.
Better be careful what you wish
Dude,
for.
I want it to rain every day. And I'm going to stand outside and just look up to the sky and smile.
Careful what you wish for.
We need it, man. We need it. We need to fix this
It's pretty bad.
wildfire situation. We need water in the ground in the rivers. Lake Mead is drying up. The Colorado River's in trouble. We'll talk about that today. Let's start with the big story, though. Joe Biden spoke to the United States of America yesterday, and the commander-in-chief had a lot to say about the withdrawal from Afghanistan, which is something to see on TV, let me tell you. At the airport, people are just swarming the planes as they prepare for takeoff. And even as they're taking off, people are clinging to the plane, hiding in the wheel well area, thinking they can get out. And then the camera shows them falling from the plane as it's in the sky. Did you see those photos? Oh my God. Visions of 9/11 when we saw people jumping from the building. These people are so desperate to get out of the country. They're clinging to an airplane from the outside as it takes off. How desperate and fearful is that to go to those extremes and that hysteria that's developed there? Say what you want, Joe Biden, but there was a better way than this to get out of this. The exit plan was not existing, and we should have taken a little more time. I know hindsight is 20/20, but all the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the military generals and the Secret Service people and the security on the ground in Afghanistan said, don't do this, what we're doing now. Plan an exit out, an exit route to make sure that the Taliban have negotiated in good faith and things are properly prepared for transition. And we didn't do any of that. I listened to Joe Biden speak yesterday. I'm not saying we shouldn't have gotten out like he had taken the initiative. I agree. Everybody, I think, would agree after 20 years it was time to get out of Afghanistan. But you couldn't do it this way. His speech was convincing to a certain extent, but then there were a lot of gaps in it, no accountability, and then people are questioning competence. This isn't a good look for him, and it's not a good sign for America. He's only 7 months into his term, and this was his big, major decision in addition to the pandemic. But this one really rested on his shoulders as the commander-in-chief, and he didn't make a good decision. And as a matter of fact, we'll just go so far as to say it was a disastrous decision on how he went about exiting, which was everybody out. No, out now. But wait a second. We're not really ready. I don't care if we're ready. Get out. Yeah, but if we do that, the Taliban are probably going to move in and just take over everything and there'll be mass pandemonium. Whatever. Out. Let's hear what he has to say. He spoke to the country. Got a little bit of a soundbite here for you to listen. He doesn't sound like a man who's in control to me. He sounds like a man who's nervous, uncertain, and not confident.
Here's what I believe to my core. It is wrong to order American troops to step up when Afghanistan's own armed forces would not. The political leaders of Afghanistan were unable to come together for the good of their people, unable to negotiate for the future of their country when the chips were down. They would never have done so while U.S. troops remained in Afghanistan, bearing the brunt of the fighting for them. And our true strategic competitors, China and Russia, would love nothing more than the United States to continue to funnel billions of dollars in resources and attention into stabilizing Afghanistan indefinitely. When I hosted President Ghani and Chairman Abdullah at the White House in June, and again when I spoke by phone to Ghani in July, we had very frank conversations. We talked about how Afghanistan should prepare to fight their civil wars after the U.S. military departed, to clean up the corruption in government so the government could function for the Afghan people. We talked extensively about the need for Afghan leaders to unite politically. They failed to do any of that. I also urged them to engage in diplomacy, to seek a political settlement with the Taliban. This advice was flatly refused. Mr. Ghani insisted the Afghan forces would fight, but obviously he was wrong.
Okay. Blame game there, as you can see, but some relevance to it. The Afghan army didn't fight, and they weren't going to fight. 300,000 well-equipped men ready to fight on the battlefield. No.
Not happening.
I don't even know. Where did they go?
I have no idea.
There was 300,000 of them. You don't see them anywhere in the streets and near the airport. They're gone. They have fallen right into the crowd. They've taken off their military clothing and gone into civilian clothing. Nobody's really talking about where the hell did 300,000 Afghan military people go?
Taliban? I don't know. Switch sides?
All the weapons they had, now the Taliban has. You bet your ass on that one. They've got it all. They're a well-equipped army, courtesy of the United States of America. You heard Biden talking about, well, I met with them. They said they were going to do this. They said they were going to do that. But, I mean, as the commander-in-chief, and while you're talking to them, you have a pretty good idea of whether you can believe what they say, whether you have confidence in their being able to carry out what they say. And I'm sure that when he was done talking to them and his advisors, he understood that at this point in the game, they were neither ready nor committed to doing all the things he talked about. Obviously, because they didn't. We had to wait another year at least before we did this complete withdrawal. We should have handled this earlier in negotiations. Yes, I blame Trump too. He didn't do anything. He reduced the troops to 2,500, but he didn't do much in the way of negotiating. 20-year war. Now you have Marines saying, people died for nothing. My fellow servicemen died for nothing. That's not true, but there could, you can see how this ended in failure for America. So if you were a military man and woman serving in Afghanistan, you would feel, well, we served in a war that ultimately produced failure. But we did, as Biden said earlier in the speech, get the bad guy, Osama bin Laden, and we got rid of terrorists and Al-Qaeda. We pretty much wiped them out from Afghanistan, which was the sole mission to begin with, not to nation build. Do we have that soundbite in? No? All right. But that's what he said. It wasn't our job to be a nation builder. Well, what the hell? You were the vice president during this nation building. Why didn't you say that then? You were building a nation while you were vice president for 8 years. That never came up then.
Yeah, he was fine with Obama.
8 years of nation building. Now suddenly we're not nation building.
He's okay with drone strikes and everything else.
Come on, man, as he would say. Be straight. You knew damn well we were nation building. You were all for it, building a Western democracy in Afghanistan. That was the mission. It wasn't just to get rid of Al-Qaeda. It wasn't just to get Osama bin Laden. It was to rebuild the nation as a Western democracy. That was pretty much understood by every president. Don't say that wasn't also the purpose of America being in Afghanistan. I'm not a political expert by any means, but this was pretty obvious that in 20 years, you just don't sit there doing nothing. In 20 years, you spend $1 trillion or more building a nation the way you want it to be run, which, as a democratic country, the United States wanted to see a democracy in Afghanistan, which in and of itself was probably the most naive, ignorant thing we could ever think of in a country that's 1,000 years old, run by tribes. It's tribal land, tribal war. Russia couldn't beat them. We can't beat them. And as he said in the speech there that we heard, part of it, Russia and China, you go take it on now. Do what you want to. Go in there and see if they can become communist, China. Good luck with that. They're going to be sneaking through your borders. I love the fact we're not spending any more money in that country. I love the fact that we're going to be refocusing on the South China Sea and China. I love the fact that we're not going to be in this convoluted war that you can't win. And you know what? China and Russia were watching us spend the money, lose lives, and now we're not doing it anymore. So the good thing that comes out of this, those two countries can go worry about Afghanistan because they're right on their borders. We got a sea separating us. We got other priorities now. Number one, China. Threat, number one, China. South China Sea, number one concern. We're not distracted anymore by Iraq. We're not distracted anymore by Afghanistan. We're not distracted by two wars that we were involved in. Now we just have to protect our interests in the South China Sea. I'm no general, not a military man, but I do know that is our greatest concern as a nation right now.
You're not a general?
I should have been.
They were like Napoleon or something like that.
I think I might have some lineage.
Napoleon complex, maybe. Just kidding.
Actually, being half Greek, I think I'm my grandfather is from the Spartan side, so I must have some sort of a military gene there. Always felt that way. Always understood war well in the analysis of it. Anyway, Justin, what do you think? Are you happy that we're out?
Yeah, I'm very happy.
General McDonald?
Yeah, get the hell out of there. Why were you there to begin with? Jeez. Shouldn't have been there.
So I think most Americans feel that same way. Sure, we don't like seeing how it unfolded in the end, but you know what? We'll take that over being there anymore. Big question is, will Al-Qaeda find support there, or will they not find the Taliban supporting them? And will there be terrorist threats to America developing in that country? Could happen the other way around. Could be terrorist threats to China. I guarantee you that the Muslims in Afghanistan are not happy with what's happening to their Muslim brothers in Xinjiang. Don't you think twice about that one. They certainly are. If they're not happy about how America treated things in the Middle East, they're certainly not happy about how Muslims are being treated in China. They will be a threat to China. I really believe China's got their hands full with what's going to transpire in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Both those countries will now become stronger Muslim extremist countries bordering China. They got problems. Welcome to our world.
Yeah,
and the world we just got rid of.
Have fun, China.
They called us the paper tiger that couldn't win the war in Afghanistan. Well, we'll see what the paper dragon's got. Hate when they start that stuff. You're insulting everybody that died to try to keep peace in a country. Good luck with you trying. We'll see what you guys are made out of. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Delta variant as it unfolds across the country. And Biden now came out and said that a booster shot will definitely be needed, certainly for 65 and older, 8 months after the second vaccine was given for Moderna and Pfizer and BioNTech vaccines. So, from results and research in Israel, where they're drawing these conclusions at this point in the game, the Israeli data from the government's website shows that some experts describe an erosion of our immune system and ability to fight the variant. The efficacy of the Pfizer vaccine against mild or asymptomatic COVID-19 infections in general and against severe disease among the elderly who were vaccinated earlier in the year. So an erosion of efficacy, especially for older people, 65 and older. And it also suggests that those who are 65 and older who got their shots in January, the vaccine is now only 55% effective for them. These are early studies, but researchers in Israel have been following this data closely. I'm just curious why Israel, well, they started their vaccines pretty early on and have, smaller numbers to track and can do so better probably than America. But they said, quote, it shows a pretty steep decline in effectiveness against infection, this being the vaccines that I mentioned, but it's still a bit murky about protection against severe disease, said Dr. Peter J. Hotez, a vaccine expert at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston, who reviewed the data at the request of the New York Times, which is where I'm getting this story from. And Dr. Jesse Goodman, a former chief scientist with the Food and Drug Administration, also reviewed the data and said, quote, worrisome trends from it she saw. That could signal waning of vaccine effectiveness. But he said he would like to see further detail from Israel and, more important, data indicating whether the United States is headed in the same direction. But Biden is saying he would like to see 65 and older people get a booster shot in 8 months after the second one as reinforcement against the Delta variant. We'll see. You said you had a friend that got the, Justin, that got the COVID after the vaccine was administered, this being somebody in their 40s?
Actually, I think they're early 50s.
What happened?
Yeah, well, they got their vaccination.
2 vaccinations,
Yep,
Moderna,
yep.
Do you know which one?
The Pfizer.
All right.
Actually, no, Moderna, excuse me.
Got 2 vaccine
Got
shots,
the 2.
fully vaccinated.
And then just like a couple days ago, he said that he was feeling like crap and he had picked it up, but he hasn't had any major
In other words,
yet.
he got tested and was positive.
Yeah, correct. But he just feels like crap, he said. He doesn't have any
Severe symptoms
at the moment.
Does he know where he got it?
No.
Is he in Portland?
No.
Where is he?
Anchorage.
Oh. Anchorage. Well, a lot of people aren't vaccinated there. And they don't have a mask mandate. Everybody's just kind of walking around doing what they want.
I mean, he got vaccinated. He thought he was okay.
Well, it's obvious from the latest that you can get they've said it over and over, the Delta variant, you can get it with the vaccination. That's why we're all mandating masks now, because, we're not fully protected from this Delta variant. You can get it when you're vaccinated. That's been clearly stated. We all know that. It's just they said it's you can be asymptomatic or you can get it, but it won't be severe. It'll be like what this guy's got.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can spread it then and thereafter. And the people who aren't vaccinated have more of a chance of getting it now because we know that people even vaccinated can spread it. That's where we're at. The only solution is for every damn person to get vaccinated. And the more you hold out, the longer this is going to go on and the more risk you are at dying. Your choice. All right, let's change gears. I wanted to talk about this very interesting story that once again I utilized in New York Times. This I had no idea was going on in sports in high school. You know, the collegians now can take endorsements money, right? In college,
Right, likeness deals.
this was this year determined, but this is also going on at the high school level. And Olympians have been able to do this for some time, get sponsorship even after winning an Olympic gold or before. But now high school students, this is a great article on the front page of the New York Times Saturday, August 14th. I was just like, I had no idea this was going on. And the first thing I thought, what a great documentary this would be. You start profiling these superstar high school athletes and how they're making choices now about becoming millionaires and leaving high school early and going to college early and playing in private leagues. This is fascinating. I'm sure somebody's going to jump on this and make a documentary. So they profiled a couple of high school stars, one being a football player, Quinn Ewers of South Lake, Texas, expected to lead his city's storied high school team this fall in its quest for another state championship as the nation's top football prospect. And this is written by Jerry Longman and Alanis Thames. Good job, kids. Instead, on August 2nd, Ewers announced that he would graduate early, skip his senior season at Carroll High School, and enroll at Ohio State to pursue the starting quarterback job there and potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in endorsement deals that NCAA athletes are now free to negotiate. First of all, that's huge. So now you're going to have some pretty wealthy athletes on the field with kids that are just being, getting free food and board. This is going to create some conflict, first of all, I thought. You're going to have some multimillionaires on the field with you. Well, you're not getting anything. You don't tell me that's going to create a divide in the team and ego problems? I don't know about allowing college kids to go out and find their own private endorsements. They're getting a free scholarship to college. They get room and board. Now they're going to be allowed to make hundreds of thousands of dollars while they're there. Shouldn't they pay their own room and board if they're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Skip the scholarships and just do your likeness.
Yeah, you got to
deals to pay your
choose.
deal?
Choice. If you're making a certain amount of money, you have a choice.
Yeah, I like that.
But we're not giving you both.
I don't like the whole thing, anyways.
I think it's a bad idea. Like I said, it's going to make conflict on the team. It's taking the amateurism out of the sport, which is why it's appealing to begin with for college games. And it's making kids make decisions that they're way too young to make and being manipulated easily by adults with other interests other than these kids. And the emphasis on education will slip even more for these athletes.
I think the people who complained about it and pushed for it to happen missed the point completely. I understand that these colleges make millions and millions of dollars off these kids, but then it also goes back to the kids,
So some of the arguments, though, are this from one of the people quoted in this very well-written, in-depth article. I got all these things highlighted that I want to do. There's this one kid, Robert Zayas, or man, I should say, the executive director of the New York State Public High School Athletic Association. He describes how, quote, between a student capitalizing on the athletic fame and being a social media influencer, end quote. In other words, they're out there doing this. You can't stop them from being successful. Like this one kid that they're talking about, Mikey Williams, for example, 17, has more than 3 million followers on Instagram. All right, so here's the devil's advocate here. What if you're on Instagram and you get followers of 3 million? You can't stop yourself from making money. Social media is what's dictating this more than collegiate executives and directors. You can't stop a kid from making money with that kind of numbers. You don't have a choice. You got to give them the right. That's the other side of the coin. Quote, if a student athlete is able on weekends or during the summer to work at a car dealership and make $15 an hour washing cars, why is it that same student wouldn't be able to entice people to purchase a car from that same dealership and make $1,500? Zayas said, good point. Here's one, Olivia Moultrie, a teenage soccer phenom from Portland, Oregon, received a scholarship offer from North Carolina at the age of 11, but instead turned pro, signing an endorsement contract with Nike at 13 years of age. In July, at 15 years of age, she became the youngest player ever in the National Women's Soccer League after a successful antitrust challenge to the league's minimum age requirement of 18. And then this quote, I have no problem with this impatience, said Anson Durrance, who has coached North Carolina to 22 NCAA women's soccer titles. Quote, I suppose these kids who want to use their name, image, and likeness to generate income, who are we to prevent them from doing it? They're monetizing their passion, end quote. I didn't know that they did that, and so that you could be 13 years old and be a professional soccer player and get endorsements. They do that in Europe, you know. Lionel Messi was 13 when he was recruited by Barcelona. Off he went, getting paid. We're just following the European model. Anyway, these kids are going to be getting big endorsements and big money. I'll be curious to see. Now, this is an example where I'd love to see a documentary follow Mikey Williams, 17, and this girl in the soccer league, and just follow their career for the next 3 years, say, and see where they go from here. How does it impact the teams they're on? What kind of money comes their way? How do they change as human beings? And who the people would be fascinating to do an in-depth documentary watching these kids' careers develop in this very new age of endorsements and professionalism for young teenagers. A whole new ball game going on literally in American athletics today. Finally, I would like to finish with some movie reviews. We will talk about Respect and The Suicide Squad number 2. And I'll first start with Respect that I saw at Cinemark, starring Jennifer Hudson, directed by Liesl Tommy.
Can't help it.
Marlon Wayans is in it.
I love Marlon Wayans.
He was really great in this movie. Plays her boyfriend, husband, an abusive relationship. Of course, the star Jennifer Hudson playing Aretha Franklin, who
so good,
was fantastic. She's just a hell of an actress. There's just no way around it. Boy, talk about an intimidating role to take on. Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul. You know, it's got to be one of the most intimidating, self-conscious things an actor could do, trying to portray such an icon, and everybody's judging how you do it. She did it fantastically, I'll tell you right now. I thought she was Aretha. She's a little better looking than Aretha, though. Nothing against Aretha, who passed away in 2018. And she was endorsing Jennifer Hudson to play her role.
Yeah, I read a review that said she was so good. It was in the line of, you know, guys like Jamie, what's his name? He played Ray.
Ray Charles.
Ray Charles.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. I can't remember. But there's been a lot of people who played really, you know, good rock stars, things like that in movies, and they're saying that she's the best.
I love biopics, first of all. It's my favorite movie to watch. it's got to be difficult to get things accurate. Now, in this biopic, it kind of follows the typical biopic storyline from the childhood through the development years into your adulthood and then stardom. It does bring up some of the issues that doesn't paint Aretha in a very positive light, which means it was critical because no people are human, perfect. They're human beings.
Yeah.
And Aretha had alcohol problems. Aretha had abusive relationships. And it says, it documents early on that she was like 13 years of age, sexually abused by a man. And I think from what I saw, she became pregnant at that age.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And so I was glad to see that it wasn't, I had a perfect life and then nothing went wrong. I was the queen of soul, yippee-yi-yay. Yeah, Aretha died at 76 years of age in 2018.
Yeah.
That's when they pass away, they can have a little more critical, truthful portrayal. Because you don't have the person alive saying, no, you're not putting that in.
Well, the same thing happened with the Johnny Cash movie, Man in Black, and also with the Doors movie. Even though the remaining members were alive, still, they were able to portray Jim Morrison. It was Jamie Foxx who played Ray Charles, by the way.
Very good. Thank you for bringing that up. And another wonderful actor, Forrest Whitaker, played a fantastic role as Aretha Franklin's father. Definitely will be up for an Academy Award, both of these actors for those roles. Forrest Whitaker was fantastic. He really nailed it, as did Jennifer Hudson, who did all the singing in the movie.
She is an American Idol.
But when you hear Aretha, at the end of the movie, they stop playing Aretha's songs and showing her, like at the Barack Obama inauguration and performing on. Her voice is so much better. It's a whole nother level of beauty and tones, and
feeling.
What a singer, And then, like I said, Marlon Wayans plays the husband at one point. And another great performance in this movie, and I didn't know who it was until I looked it up because I had no idea from looking at him. Mark Maron, comedian, podcaster, plays the Jewish agent Jerry Wexler, and he knocks it out of the park, man. He was really good. And he's another one who probably he might get an Academy Award nod for this. The whole cast was great. It was directed by Liesl Tommy, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was at the cinema in Cinemark on 82nd Avenue, where I see all my movies, at Cinemark, which is got the big lounge chairs, the large screens and wonderful sound systems in there. It's just a great place to watch a movie, and I highly recommend it. But everybody in this audience, except for like me and another guy, was black. It wasn't a lot, but it was a very African-American crowd at this showing. But they loved it. They got into it. They loved this because it was soul music too. Aretha's beginnings
she's soul,
were soul, but she also did gospel, at her young age with her father's church. And their relationship with Martin Luther King also came out in this. Nonetheless, what I give it is my highest rating, a full bag of popcorn with butter. Now let's go on to a quick review. Suicide Squad I popped in on. And I didn't see I kind of sat through the first one and walked out. It just wasn't my kind of movie. So I figured, all right, I'll give Suicide Squad 2 a shot here. And I went in. I thoroughly enjoyed the coming attractions. And then when the movie started, I immediately was disappointed. I was happy I did see the coming attractions, though, so that it wasn't a complete waste of time. But this movie itself, in the first 30 minutes, I tolerated it. But eventually, my brain got so numb by the stupid dialogue and the impossible storyline. And they must have blew off and cut off heads and killed more people in the first 30 minutes than any other movie I've ever seen.
Woohoo!
It's rated R, but it's written for 12-year-olds. What does that tell you? The audience you wrote it for won't be able to see it. But the ones that do see it have to tolerate 12-year-old dialogue and some of the stupidest things I've ever seen in storytelling. It was so bad, I walked out. Yep.
It was better than the first one, though. Because it's more cartoony. It's more
I
comic.
guess,
It's
but
more comic booky.
Maybe when you're stoned, you really appreciate these movies, or
Well, I
have
was
a
sober when
stiff cocktail when you go in. But I was sober, and I thoroughly hated it.
It dragged. I mean, there was a couple of good parts that I thought held true, and the director Gum, I thought he took
Director who?
I think Jamie Gum, I think his name is
James Gunn.
James Gum.
Yeah, and he wrote it.
Yeah, I think it was better than the first one. I think it was more to the comic book.
Yeah, John Cena in underwear. That was when I walked out. John Cena was standing there in his underwear for an entire scene for some reason. I still couldn't figure out why.
I was not happy. They should have got Harley Quinn more involved and a few other. Yeah, I just didn't think that. I didn't think it was that great.
I read some people writing reviews. What a great movie. I don't know who the hell these people are. I guess this appeals to a certain audience out there that has a very low brow expectation of movie dialogue and storytelling. Nonetheless, it gets my worst rating the first time I've given it. Not only an empty bag of popcorn, which is really bad, but a burnt bag of popcorn.
Crumpled up on the floor.
That is, it wasn't even worth eating. And this one ain't worth watching. That does it for today's show. That's my movie reviews. Coming up on my next movie review, I'll be going out to see the movie with Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can't even remember the name of that movie.
I know. I friggin' space on the space.
Like, what is it? That guy or something? What was that? I don't know.
Free Guy.
Free Guy. Okay.
Looking forward to. Well, hopefully that'll be smarter than Suicide. All right, a little Aretha going out today. Have a great day. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
I'm Dave Dahl, creator of Dave's Killer Bread, a well-known, against-the-odds success story. To give back, we built a podcast studio called TalkCast PDX, a state-of-the-art facility to produce your own podcast. TalkCast PDX is a place where every opinion is accepted. If you've ever thought about it, do it. Use your voice and make a difference at TalkCast PDX.